All right. Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. Our guest today is Ryan Alford. Ryan, are you ready to be great today?
Hey man, I'm ready to be great every day, brother.
Ryan is a 20-year ad agency veteran, successful entrepreneur, and marketing influencer. Ryan has built multiple businesses into eight-figure performers, including his current digital agency, Radical, which is one of the fastest growing digital agencies in the Southeast. Best known for his creative and strategic work on brands like Verizon, Lexus, and the NFL. Ryan also hosts the Radcast, a top 25 marketing podcast. Ryan, thank you for being here today.
Hey man, my pleasure, Jason. It's great to be with you and appreciate you having me on.
So, Ryan, talk about how you became to be a career marketer. How's that work?
Well, I think I was born with it. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My mom and dad both had careers. My dad's a natural charismatic sales guy, and I think I'm a blend. I kind of talk a lot about this division of marketing and sales, and I don't know if I had the charisma that my dad has as a salesman, but I think I did have his brain as a marketing person, and grew up with an entrepreneurial family. Kind of saw how it was to have multiple income streams and to chase more than just your day job, and I think that influenced me. And then I was always driven to kind of be myself, and always thought I think I had a creative brain of sorts, and I think that translated to, the marketing world and being. I think I'm equally entrepreneurial and equally a marketer. I think I've worked for other people. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that couldn't work for others. I just always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and the places I have worked, I think that's been of value to the people that I work for. But I was a marketing major at Clemson. I was one of the few people to come out of your college and do and go into a field that was exactly like what you're lined up for, which for me was at an ad agency. Cutting my teeth early on, and I think it all started early with just kind of having both that entrepreneurial and marketing mindset for consumer behavior and how you motivate people to take action, which is what I think marketing truly is.
Ryan, can you tell us some more about the advantages and what you learned from your parents, entrepreneurs? So, I mean, this is a great advantage, right? Learning entrepreneur as a child, right? Versus, and so many people don't have that advantage growing up.
Yeah, man, it was interesting. My parents were not. I mean, this wasn't like they were Netflix entrepreneurs. We were deeply seated in the lower middle class of South Carolina, and Easley, South Carolina, which is right outside of Greenville, which somewhere where I live now. And they were serial entrepreneurs in that they did everything from garage sales every other week to my dad having two or three kind of side jobs, doing a number of things, from an income stream. And I think I just learned that there's a lot of ways to make money. That I think sometimes, and a lot of my friends, in my era, it was growing up where you go to college, you get a job, you do that job, you get health insurance, you get life insurance, and you save, and that's your thing. But I grew up in a family that did those things, but also had a floral arrangement company that my mom run, or my dad was distributing, like he was one of the first like multi-level marketing guys. If he had a day job in sales, but then he's like doing like workout powders and different things, like even when I was growing up. And then he was, also, it seemed like we had, I joked about the garage sales, but we were the perennial garage sale family of what seemed like 4 garage sales every summer. And so I watched, my parents kind of piece together a middle class income through 4 or 5 things and not just one. And I think it made me realize that there's not just one path to building, your home economics and your home, I don't know, income. And I think that did impact me quite a bit.
I remember when I was growing up, I would like sell newspaper, wash cars, cut grass as a kid, making money. And one time I lived with my aunt and uncle for a year when I was high school. my uncle took me cut down trees and start selling wood, right? He was like, there's always a way to make money. You just had to figure it out, right? I'm pretty sure the same way, I'm guessing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I my first real job, I was like, I think, I think I might have been, I don't know if I was a legal worker or not, but I think I was 14 or 15.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we won't talk about that, right?
No, we won't talk about that, but like not literally, but it was like a family company, it was harmless. But I was like washing dishes at a family meat and three restaurant, literally with my hands, like scrubbing pots and pans was my first real job. Other than, the garage sale help and, shoveling baseball cards around. I was a baseball card junkie and definitely had little side incomes like that. But like real jobs was washing dishes. And, I did that for like 2 summers and I'm like, why the hell am I washing dishes? And then started working at like the video store. I'm like 16 years old, like a sophomore and junior. I worked, I played sports, but I worked, pretty much my all through high school and in college. Paid my way through Clemson. My parents helped me some. I'd say it was more like an 80-20 plan. 80% on me with student loans and working and waiting tables. But, I learned a work ethic. And I think my parents would argue, that work ethic improved over time. But I always knew and had to make my own way to kind of buy the things that I want. And from an early age, I liked what I liked. And my parents thought I had rich taste for a lower middle class family. But you know what? I pieced it together and made it happen through multiple jobs and multiple streams or trades and what they call it, horse bartering or horse trading or whatever it took. But I always had that about me.
How far is Greenville from Columbia?
Hour and a half.
Yeah. I was stationed in Fort Jackson twice in the Army. Once I was single, had a great time. Second time I was married, I still had a great time. Yeah, I had fun memories of Columbia and all of South Carolina, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, the whole area.
It's a great state. I mean, I grew up here. It's home. I've been everywhere in the state just about and spend time on the coast and the beach. The great thing about Greenville is you're 3 hours to the beach and an hour to the mountains. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And Greenville's booming because, I mean, we're on like Condé Nast, like top small cities in the US now. Like the secret's out where I feel like we're kind of headed towards this Austin vibe. It's pretty cool. Yeah, when Austin was cool.
Yeah.
Austin's gotten a little, I don't know, a little crowded for my liking, but I'm hoping Greenville stops short of that. But it's a pretty cool little city.
Yeah. So the next question, I'm pretty sure your answer gonna be it depends. But what should an entrepreneur or startup founder or small business owner look for the first marketing hire? Of course, it depends. Like if you're a brand new startup with no money, that's probably one thing. Or if they have like $1 million of funding, or money coming in, how should they look at that?
I'll answer that a few different ways. But look, this is even owning an agency now and the hires that I make. I like mutants. Let me explain. We live in a very complex marketing world now, and we certainly, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I like to do that. Any good marketer does, right? But we certainly need niche skills. However, it's so complex with the channels, the mediums, the messages, everything that you have to do. I like multi-talented people, multi-talented hires that, a good designer that can also write a little bit, that also happens to be popular on TikTok, that also happens to do a little moonlighting and video editing. Those people are out there. They're getting, I don't know if it's easier or harder to find. They're not easy to find, but they're out there. And give me someone that understands marketing that has 6 pretty good skill sets and has a marketing mind. I tend to start there, especially with early hires. As we've grown as an agency, we've had to get more niche and specialized for certain skills. Like I need a PHP developer, for custom coded website. That's very specific. However, if I'm an entrepreneur, and I did this even with my agency starting, my first few hires were very nimble, very kind of multi-talented. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, you need to kind of find those people. And I don't know that age necessarily matters, but it does tend to skew young because they've grown up in this social media world. And unless you're B2B, where social media matters, but maybe it's not going to make or break the business day one. And again, some of our bigger brand clients, we tell them how important social media is from B2B, but I'm talking on the smaller scale from an entrepreneur. You can get away with hiring, someone a little younger that understands social media, that maybe has 4 to 6 skill sets. That's where, your first hire needs to be, is thinking through that. And the last thing I'll say, though, the biggest thing that's overlooked, and as much emphasis as we put it on video, writing is the secret sauce in marketing. A good writer, a good storyteller, and that can write not only like catchy puns and those things, but can really summarize, complex details into catchy, human writing and not robotic writing, is the secret sauce.
So where do you find your people at? Do you like go to college fairs? Do you like do advertisements? Are they like college degrees in marketing, or like, more like experience based, or a combination?
I'm out of the box with my hiring practices compared to most agencies. Historically, most agencies are what's interesting is the big agencies just only hire you if you've had agency experience, because they can be selective enough. And it's like chicken or the egg, right? Well, you got to have experience to get experience. Well, they just cherry pick it from other people. So I'm probably the farm, unfortunately for the huge agencies, because they'll come try to farm off of us, the people that get experience here. But all that aside, I don't hire. Half of our hires didn't have any agency experience, but it's more off a feel. Back to that kind of, are you a creative person? And creative comes in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's creative because you can come up with creative ideas for clients, but resourcefulness and availability are 2 words that are really important. People that are resourceful are really valuable. People that don't have to be handheld through every step of the way. So there might be creative in different ways, and that might be a process person or someone that works internally as you kind of get bigger. But I find that I interview people, and I don't claim to have, I'm a jack of all trade, maybe master of none, but I've always been really good at hiring people, both for other people and my own company. I think I do it well because I get a vibe for people that I can see through the interview process if they're resourceful, if they're talented, or if they're full of shit. And I'm not batting 100%, but I'm telling you, I'm as good as I've ever met it figuring that out in an interview. I don't know why, but I can kind of see through it. Maybe because I'm a marketer. I don't know.
And I'm guessing you're looking for people who are like always curious, always learning to learn, right? Like kind of humble.
100%. You've actually stumbled upon one of my keys to being successful in general: human curiosity. If you aren't curious, you show me a person that's not curious, I'll show you a person that's an utter failure. Like, or they've just stepped into money, or because you can't have been hungry in your life for a paycheck or a meal or anything else if you aren't curious. If you are not don't have a natural curiosity about you, I would bet that you haven't had to worry about a lot in your life. But I also think, even for those that may have, whether they grew up with a silver spoon or not, human curiosity is one of the greatest variables of success.
Yeah, I think the best way someone can guarantee not to get a job is to ask no questions at the interview. Like they always ask, "You any questions for me?" You got to have some, even the bullshit made up questions, right? You got to ask something, right? Like, yeah, that's
100%. I ask literally, when I interview someone, I ask like 3 questions, and I get enough from them, and they're deeper questions that get at, what I need to hear. And I learn way more from what they ask me than what I ask them.
How has COVID changed the way you do business, or if everything stayed the same for you?
We're in South Carolina. We're in a conservative state. So, we've been responsible about it. It's not like we're like some anti-vaxxers, like crazy people. And I'm, whether or not anybody how you feel about vaccines, I'm not even judging that, nor myself. I'm more just saying we haven't had the lockdowns, that other states have, and had the kind of, reaction. So we have been less impacted, at least internally. We have a huge office space. We're almost naturally socially distanced in some ways, so we've been able to kind of stay status quo after the first couple months settled down, which has allowed us to serve our clients better, quite frankly. The remote work thing, to me, I think it's great that it opened up the possibility that some of the time you can work in a hybrid environment. But at the same time, in my view, and where we work best is in a collaborative nature, and that just can't happen in the same way. It just does. People are trying, and hear people, and they're smart people. I hear people talk about all the time. We haven't skipped a beat. We're just as collaborative, and I call bullshit
Yeah,
because
that's hard. I mean, I'm a big remote person. I love remote work, but it's just something about, being in person, especially like you're doing designs and collaborative. It's not
it's
the
not the
same. I don't care what
same.
he
It
says.
is not the same. It just isn't. It's like, I saw it firsthand because we did for a couple months go 100% remote, and we made it happen, and we didn't fall apart and all that. But as soon as we got back together, the productivity went back up through the roof, and like people were like collaborating, and it's just a different collaboration.
No, I definitely agree. So, what's your opinion on this? So, a few years ago, I was really a big Snapchat fan. I was on all the time, not so much now. I mean, what happened to Snapchat? Like, is this because like Instagram copied everything and TikTok took over? Like, I don't know what happened to Snapchat as far as all that.
Well, I there's still a niche for it. It's not. I wouldn't. Where I classify certain things as DEAD, dead. I wouldn't put. They're teetering, but they're not dead because my niece, who's like 22, and all her friends that kind of grew up on it, they still use it and communicate through it, and I see a level of it, so I know it's not completely gone. But I think what happened is, you only have so much attention throughout the day, and TikTok the last 2 years has taken over that attention space for that demographic. And so I think, again, you only have so many hours in the day. Instagram has kind of held, it's had its ups and downs, but it's held, pretty tight with improving, some of their capabilities, like love or hate reels, the base platform, the DMing, the messaging capabilities. And then Facebook certainly has taken a tumble, especially that younger demographic, but there's still 30 billion people plus on it. Or 100 billion, whatever the number is, it's in the billions that still use it daily. So I think there's only so much attention throughout the day, no matter how fleeting it is. And I think TikTok's just kind of eroded into that.
I know it's Snapchat. Maybe it's just me being lazy, but to me, Snapchat used to be so user friendly and intuitive. Now it's not so much anymore. But as far as talking, right? So I talk with my cousin. And we talk about this pre-talk. I have a cousin who plays football for Austin Westlake in Austin, Texas. They're playing for state championship tomorrow. Their quarterback, I can't remember his name, is going to play for Clemson, your school, next year. So that's curious. So I talk like 2 or 3 people on Snapchat. That's it. I used to be a daily user. Right? I used to do the post my podcast clips on there, do the Snapchat stuff. I don't know. I'm just being lazy. I need to get back there. I used to be a big fan of it.
Yeah, I think they've weighted it down, and you could say Instagram's done it, but I feel like Instagram, at least the core things that I've always done on Instagram, I can still do as quickly, even though they've added more functionality. And Snapchat's gotten just a little more weighted down with the user flow, and and again, I'm on TikTok and have a pretty good following there, so this isn't necessarily plugging it, but the user interface is just so easy and so
Oh yeah,
fast, and you
no
can get
doubt.
into that rabbit hole so quickly. It's just a little more, I don't know, it's just a little more time. And Snapchat's just, it's communication. And I think what's happened is people are getting more entertained more quickly on the other platforms, and then they're DMing and communicating more through Instagram or even TikTok or others, so that communication aspect with Snapchat's just kind of diminished.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with TikTok, I'm a big fan of TikTok. Like I tell people, why are you on TikTok for? I'm like, cause like there's trash from like other social media, like there's like teenage girls dancing, but there's also like those later in the less even there's like daily HR, a daily sales tip. You do your marketing stuff on there. So I think there's a lot of good stuff on there. Just got to search and find it. And
Yeah, you just got to get it in your feed, do searches beyond, you know, like every dance challenge. That was kind of all it is now. And, it will definitely align to how much time you spend on certain things. You'll see more and more of the same.
exactly. Do you ever any recommendations for entrepreneurs to take better advantage of TikTok or social media in general?
You got to do it, like a lot of mine's like, like it's cliche, and like a lot of the, I guess influencer personal motivation people, and I don't necessarily consider me that, other than I'll share things that I feel like make me successful, but I'm not a personal, like growth, hacker or whatever. But but try it. You got to use it. Like, I'm a practitioner. Like, I own an agency. I have a team. I have a team that helps me with my personal brand that I couldn't do it without. However, I am a practitioner. I am in the app. I'm doing it. I'm not on it all day. I'm running clients. I'm running a business. But like I do at night, I'm a practitioner. I figure out and learn how to do it myself. And unless you try and get into it and have interest and curiosity in learning it and recognizing how it can help your business and how your personal brand, you're never going to figure it out, because you're always going to be at the mercy of someone else. Because literally, if, and I even hate saying this out loud, Jason, but I'm not one of those people that feels like just because you say it, it'll happen. But like, if everything in the agency fell apart, like if my business went to hell, like my personal brand is established. I can make money. I have revenue streams. I could manage everything that my personal brand myself. I know how to do everything that we do. Like, I know how to edit videos. I know how to do it because I've taught myself all of these things, and I have a curiosity about it. Am I as good as the team that I have now? Absolutely not. But I'm a practitioner of these things. And if you're always going to be the mercy of others, if you don't learn these channels yourself.
Ryan, can you try to point that entrepreneurs put themselves out there? I think some entrepreneurs, they build a product, build a great company, but if you Google the name, like it's crickets, right? Can you talk about the point, like putting yourself out there and being like a kind of known entity?
Yeah, man. I mean, attention is currency. Being known pays. So what do I mean by that? I'm not talking about being famous. I'm not a famous person. I mean, I'm known in marketing. I'm known in my field, and within smaller niche circles of agencies and things like that. But I'm not famous, but I am known. And when you can be known and have thought leadership around the subject matter that you're in, whether that's insurance, whether that's law, whether that's marketing, whatever that is, you have an opportunity to have leverage, because you can then bring your brand or your business along with you. And that has power. And I talk about it in our mastermind, this notion that we're building of compounding interest. You think of compounding interest with investment and money. I talk about compounding interest in yourself, interest in your brand, interest in your content. And interest compounds when you have brand messaging out there for your company. You have personal brand messaging out there as a founder or a CEO for the brand. You have other influencers. You have other borrowed interest channels which you use that all compounds and magnifies the attention around whatever product, service, or thing that you're promoting or selling. And so it's just a complete lost opportunity. And you don't have to be, Johnny Muchismo or whatever to have a personal brand to leverage. You just have to put your opinion out there.
So Ryan, it seems like some marketers say be everywhere, be on all platforms. Other marketers say no, only pick one or two. What's your take on that?
I'm kind of an 80-20 kind of guy. Focus your attention, 80% of your audience and 80% of your targets typically on 20% of the platforms. And the same thing with like sales, like sometimes 80% of your sales comes from 20% of your target. I like to focus and be, where you can do it properly. Like for me, it started on Instagram. I've been on Instagram since 2009. I don't know what number I was, but I think Instagram started in late 08, early 09. I guarantee you I was in the first 500,000 or a million on Instagram. Now I'm verified. I have over 100,000 followers. I don't have millions of followers, but I've built that platform over 12 years. And that's where I started. And even when TikTok popped off 2 years ago, I wasn't active. I wasn't a first mover. So, Facebook, I've had a presence on, but it's kind of started in Instagram because that's where my audience was built. And then I've transitioned in the last year and a half to TikTok and have a good following. I'm verified there, but it happened over time. And so my answer to that is it depends, but typically speaking, I would get one or two channels right, then move on to the others. And if you're in business, then you need to be on LinkedIn as well.
So Ryan, you bring up a good point. Can you talk about the fact of having patience for building up your followers? I think too many people think I'll go on this platform in 6 months have a million followers. Like me, I have like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, but I've been there since 2014, right? Can you talk about having the time, the patience, doing the right way?
Yeah, man. That's something I talk about a lot. Nobody wants to hear it, so it's not my most popular content, but short-termism is the plague of our society. Everybody wants everything yesterday. And with crypto and all these things that have made people overnight millionaires and viral videos that can happen, it's turned everybody. Not only we have short attention spans, everybody wants everything immediately. We want, gratification immediately. I really hope that changes over time, but I think it's a real plague of our society. But branding's built over time. It took me, 8 years before anyone gave a shit what I did on Instagram, or to have any kind of major following. And I don't even think it takes that long now. No one has to wait as long as I had to wait on the platform. So I tell people, God, you guys are just too anxious, but like it takes time, and consistency. What happens is people want to, post for, once a day for 4 weeks. And then when they're only getting 15 likes or 100 likes, depending on the scale, whatever that is, they just bail on it, say it's not working. And it takes commitment. I mean, I post 4 times a day to Instagram, and I've been doing that for the last 5 years. It wasn't always the volume that I'm doing now, but the last 4 to 5 years, 3 to 4 times a day, and stories and other things. And it's gradually over time that audience has changed and grown. And, the first, I don't know, the first 2 years when I really got active trying to grow it, I had 4,000 people, maybe, and only 7% even then, because organic reach was already gone. So I only had probably 200 or 300 people max, even engaging with my content. And now, it's, I get 1 million impressions a week across, all of it, but it's built over 5 years. I mean, 10 years total on the platform, but 5 years of like activity. And it just takes time to build a brand. And everybody thinks they're going to build a company, do a startup, and sell out in 18 months, or 2 years and make $1 million. And it's just not realistic. And not only that, you got to live a lot. $1 million isn't what it used to be.
No.
It's a lot to live. And you got to have patience to ride this bus and to grow your brand over time.
And I think a lot of people mess up too. And of course, this is hard to do because you by yourself. But I think a lot of people, they post something and it won't do good, but maybe they should like repurpose it, like maybe later on, like maybe a different platform, tweak or something, Of course, if it's by yourself, it's kind of hard to do. I understand that, but I think a lot of people don't do that correctly.
Well, it's funny. That's, you're hitting all the key points, Jason. I love this. It's so funny. How many times do you, no matter how much you watch TV, a lot of people don't watch TV anymore, but when you were watching TV, how many times would you see one commercial? Like how many? Like hundreds?
Dozens, hundreds.
Hundreds, like, that Nike commercial, that McDonald's commercial, or that cheesy car ad that you hated, but you still saw it. It's so funny. Reach and frequency is the name of the game with media. How many people you're hitting and see your message, and then the number of times, and that's how media is determined. And the only way to get true awareness and to get true brand growth is with reach and frequency. And it's so funny to me how people won't play their greatest hits on social media with the posts. And I'm not saying that if a post does well, you should repost it the same week 3 times. But every other month at worst, or every month, if you've got a video or something that did well, not to throw that back up on a story or to repost that for everybody that didn't see it, because only 7% of your followers, if you aren't running ads, saw it to begin with. Maybe another 7% will see it. No one's going through your feed going, oh my God, he reposted the same thing. So we're so self-limiting, with content that we create. And when you think about what works in advertising is repetition. It's just so contrary.
And like you said, there's so many people on these platforms. What's the chance that they're even going to see it the one time, right? You got to put it out there.
Yeah, probably 1 in 100 chance that anyone sees it a second time anyway. And if they do, all you're doing is reinforcing whatever message that content did, and that's a win.
Who are some marketers that you follow?
Christopher Lochhead is one of my favorites. He is one of the. He didn't come up through the agency world. You know, I did come up through the agency world, and you could say like Ogilvy and all these guys that were like, you know, mainstream ad guys. But Christopher Lochhead is brilliant. He runs a newsletter called Category Pirates, and he's brilliant. And he's completely irreverent, which I love. I follow myself a little bit in that space. If you listen to our podcast, the Radcast, our Friday episodes in particular, which I just recorded, are a little irreverent, and he is very much in that vein. But he's truly one of the smartest guys. He talks about the notion that you've got to be creating a category and working about your category creation more than just your brand, which is really smart. But he's also just that's kind of his drumbeat message, is talking about category creation versus, and the notion is create a new category or reframe the category instead of trying to come into a category where there's a lot of players and just trying to say you're better. You know, that's a losing proposition, and it's really smart. His newsletter's awesome. So shameless. I'll give as much plugs to him as possible. He's one of my favorites. And you know, I'll leave it there. I don't consume a ton of content like I used to. And so there's only like 1 or 2 people that kind of almost, I mean, other than just in my feed, I'd certainly get that content, but I mean more of like going out and truly seeking out stuff, or stuff that I, you know, kind of let into my mainframe.
Ryan, can you talk about your podcast some?
Yeah, man. It's called the Radcast. We're top 100 on Apple. We're top 25 on Spotify in business and marketing. And those rankings kind of fluctuate, but we stay pretty high up in there. We've grown that over 4 years. We turned 4 in May. So again, over time, you know, we had 4 people listening the first 6 months, probably like everybody else's podcast, and it never dissuaded me. And I didn't even look at the data. Like, I just recorded. Like, I just hit record. Like, I started and, you know, started having guests on. And I'm blessed to have had connections and people in the business that I've met over the time when I started it. So that certainly helped with my guest lineup in the early stages, but now it's gone to another level. We have 2 episodes a week, probably going to move to 3 next year with the amount of guests that we're kind of getting booked and getting demand from. But we have it's a marketing podcast, but that's the thread. But it's, you know, we talk about what we say is radical people, radical marketing, radical inspiration. And that, I think that's kind of the theme, especially for our guest episodes, which are on Tuesday. We'll have anything from an A-list celebrity to a CMO of a huge brand like Cisco. And so we talk about their journey in their careers. We talk about their businesses, because even, you know, celebrities or sports athletes, or, you know, we had Marty Smith from ESPN on a few months ago. Like, you know, we'll talk, they all have entrepreneurial journeys, even if they're, you know, in a career. And, you know, we'll talk about the marketing aspects of the business. We bring it back to marketing, but we'll, you know, it's a wide gamut of guests. And then our Friday episodes, we talk about news. We talk about it, both pop culture and marketing news. There's always that thread of marketing. If you listen to an entire episodes, and our episodes go about 45 minutes, you'll always get the thread of marketing eventually. But it is a little broader than that, because we'll cross the gamut of entertainment, pop culture. And our Friday episodes, I do have a co-host on Fridays, Joe Hamrick, who's an old high school friend, who's actually a comedian and writer, amongst other things. And we have fun. We talk about some of the headlines and some of the ridiculousness of some of the things. We have a fun segment where we joke about social holidays and how ridiculous some of them are. Social media holidays. Like, ironically, if you didn't know it, tomorrow is maple syrup day. So there's
no, I did not know that. It's always some type of day somewhere, right?
Some kind of useless information, but we have fun with it. And it's been great growing the podcast, and we've been really blessed with the, you know, listenership growing.
So Ryan, what's been your experience with this, right? I'm kind of making this number up, but like, I think I know like 50 people start a podcast, only 5 are still doing it. Have you had the same experience?
Yeah, man, it's called pod fade. It's back to the same principle. Like you can probably, short termism might could be the theme of this, but like it's like people do 7 episodes and they don't create the structure, the discipline, and the process to stick with it. And they do 7 episodes and they get, their attention span wanes. They go and if they have a data source, they go and they see that 7 people listen to all episodes, and you can't look at any of those numbers the first 20 episodes. Do get 30 episodes. This is what people ask me all the time, how do I do this? How do I get it? Well, come up with just the themes. You don't have to write every episode. Come up with the themes for like first 25 or 30 episodes. Create a structure of a day and a time where you can stick to recording it, and create that structure and create that discipline, and don't look at the numbers, and don't try to be getting a guest or a sponsorship or be thinking about how I monetize it. You have to want to do it for yourself, because exactly what you decide happens. There's so many of these podcasts. I mean, it's almost like the internet's got to be full of them. There's probably 1 million podcasts out there, and I don't know, 850,000 of them are like have 7 episodes or less. But you have to just set up that process, and you have to be committed to it, and you have to do it for yourself. If you're doing it purely as a moneymaker, day one, it's gonna fail. You have to want to do it to learn more, either from your guest or to be reflective on your own thoughts. And for me, it does both. And now, because we've gotten popular, it has turned into both a moneymaker and other opportunities for us, more because it's leads for our agency. We aren't even selling ads. We do some stuff with sponsored guests here and there, but it's mainly just 90% of the leads of our agency come through the podcast now.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that even if you only have 30 listeners, right? What would you give to talk to 30 people once a week, right? I mean, you'd probably give everything, right?
Exactly. And they care what you say, and you're impacting them. Like, that's the thing, is like, and that's when it hit me. I mean, I was committed to it when I did it, but so I wasn't necessarily worried that I was going to have the pod fade like we talked about, but I'll never forget getting that DM, from someone saying, "Hey man, I just wanted you to know that like I put that into practice." And I was like, damn, that impacted me, like one person, if you knew you impacted them positively, much less, to your point, 30 people listen to what you had to say. Like if you were in a room, you'd be surprised. We look at these numbers, and same thing with like, followers or anything else. We get so conditioned with this stuff. But you know what? A room full of 30 people, that's a lot of people. Don't tell me that you can get in front of someone and speak to 30 people and you aren't a little greasy handed and a little shaky. Hell yeah, you are. 30 people is not a few people. So when you say I only got 100 listeners or only have 100 followers or 50, imagine 100 people in a room and they all cared what you did. We should be thankful.
I completely agree. So Ryan, next, can you talk about this masterclass you have coming up? And first of all, what is a masterclass?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of different things, and we call it a mastermind, a masterclass. Here's what it's going to be. Andy Murphy, he's a friend of mine. He's one of the smartest people there is in brain conditioning and getting to higher levels, because the biggest issue you see with entrepreneurs, with self-starters, with highly motivated people is we as individuals are our biggest limits. It's less about outside forces and more of the things in our head. And so I wanted to partner with Andy to help entrepreneurs or anyone in their journey, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in business. We wanted to help them with both what we're calling brain and brand engineering. And I'm going to be teaching on marketing, personal branding. It's going to cost the gamut of both business branding and personal branding. And then Andy's going to teach people on brain conditioning and how to get out of your head, and exercises and real world practical ways to not limit yourself. Because I think those two things, especially when you're an entrepreneur or someone that's trying to get the most out of themselves and learn about marketing, I just thought those things went hand in hand, because I could teach you all day about marketing and personal branding and media and social media and all these things. But if you aren't out of your head, if you aren't able to put them to practice, or you're going to fade out in 7 episodes on your podcast, then it doesn't do you any good. So what Andy and I are doing is a mastermind, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be once a week training. You're getting one-on-one access to both Andy and I. We're going to teach on a couple of different things each week, and then it's going to be open forum. So you're really joining a community of high performers, and then you get first class access to me and Andy in this forum, in this group. And I mean, it's going to be so much value for people, and it's called the Radical Formula. And we think it's going to be a difference maker for a lot of people. And you can learn more at the radicalformula.com and get signed up for our newsletter, because it's going to be launching next year.
Is there a certain demographic that should be attending this?
Honestly, if you want to get it's it's interesting. It's going to be very affordable. It's going to be $297 a month, less than $300 a month for access. And look, I almost can't even say that online for what I charge clients. Like, to get access to me, to get firsthand access for me to help on you. I get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from brands to help them solve problems. And you're going to get first access to me and then Andy, all in this mastermind. And so we're making it really approachable for a lot of different levels. But I think the demographic is people that are really focused on getting shit done and making hay next year and forward in their life, in either a startup, or maybe they're transitioning in their business, or maybe they don't feel like they know everything that they should about marketing, or they want to get more out of themselves in whatever career they're in. So we think it's going to kind of scan a wide gamut, and we're going to see where kind of the cards fall.
Ryan, so you already talked about the sum, but can you talk more about how your company got started, where you're at right now, and what your vision is for the future for your company?
Yeah, man. Radical is the name of our agency. We're 4 years old, but we've got over 100 years experience on the team. And it's been a real blessing. We've grown really quickly. We've got almost 30 employees across the world. We have 20 here in Greenville, South Carolina, another 10 spread across the world, depending on the clients. We're working with both international clients and local clients. I'd say we're 60% B2B, 40% consumer marketing. And we help brands. We're a turnkey digital agency. We build dozens of websites a year, probably 50 to 75 different websites. We're, custom code to Shopify, e-commerce, and then, custom, just about anything from a web project standpoint. And then we buy a ton of digital media. I'd say that we create, I think we're like this perfect blend of the art and the science. We have a lot of really good creative minds. I'll lob myself in there. I think really I'm a different beast when it comes to the creative space. I have a lot of campaigns that I've worked on over the years that are household names from Verizon and others. But we have this digital arm where we can get and amplify the messages to get them out there in the places that they need to be, whether that's social media or programmatic. And so I think we're blending the art and the science, but we're a full service digital agency, and we're on the move, brother.
So Ron, is there anything I should ask you that I didn't, or anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so, man. I hope, I've given some pointers. I think, as people, we need to invest in ourselves. I invest in myself. I firmly believe in that analogy where, if the plane's crashing, you got to put your oxygen mask on so that you can help others. And so you've got to get the best out of yourself so that you can give the best to others. And I think that's been a model for my success. And I just challenge people to kind of, try to get out of their comfort zones and make the most. And, if I can ever help, I'm at Ryan Alford on all the platforms. I answer all my DMs personally. I'm very approachable. I'm very accessible. And I'm just thankful to have had this time with you, brother.
And for our listeners, we have the links to the mastermind or mastermind class and its social media on the show notes. You find the show notes at www.cavnesshrblog.com, and be sure to share this episode with your network. So Ryan, we're coming to the end of our talk. Can you give us any advice and wisdom or anything you want to talk about?
I think I think I've given it all to you, brother. Just play the long game. Don't play the short game. The long game doesn't work. And you know what? It's funny how what goes around comes around. So
that's so true.
Just good principles and things that I live by, man. And I'm blessed to have a wonderful family and 4 boys growing up, and you know, I show a lot of gratitude, but you know, I'm just thankful for this opportunity.
Ryan, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. And remember to be great every day.